Let's talk tariffs. They might sound like a dry topic, but they've played a surprisingly dramatic role in recent American politics. Under President Trump, tariffs weren't just a footnote in the news. They became front-page material, sparking heated debates across the country. The big promise was bold and simple: slap tariffs on foreign goods, and millions of American manufacturing jobs would come rushing back. It was a message that resonated with workers who felt left behind. The logic seemed straightforward: make imported goods more expensive, and suddenly it's cheaper for companies to build factories and hire workers right here at home. It's a classic America First move. Trump pointed fingers at countries like China and Canada, accusing them of unfair trade practices and job theft. Tariffs, he argued, were America's way of fighting back and reclaiming its economic power. But the economy is a lot more complicated than a campaign slogan. Behind the scenes, most economists were raising red flags, warning that tariffs could backfire. American manufacturers don't operate in a vacuum. They rely on global supply chains for parts and materials. Tariffs meant higher costs for these companies, not just for finished goods, but for the raw materials they need to stay competitive. Take Detroit, for example. If automakers suddenly have to pay 25% more for Canadian steel, the cost of building cars goes up. That means higher prices for consumers, or slimmer profits for companies. In the end, businesses face a tough choice: absorb the extra cost and risk going under, or pass it along to you, the consumer, in the form of higher prices at the store. Despite all the tough talk and promises, the actual results were far less impressive than advertised. Many workers and business owners were left feeling uncertain about the future. While factory output did hit record highs, it wasn't because more people were working. In fact, factories became more automated, producing more with fewer workers than ever before. The hard truth? Manufacturing jobs actually declined during this period, even as tariffs were supposed to be protecting them. Instead of sparking a jobs boom, the policy may have accelerated job losses, making it even harder for American workers to find stable employment in manufacturing. The dream of a manufacturing renaissance, a return to the glory days of the 1950s, slowly faded. It became clear that you can't simply tax your way back to a bygone era. In the end, tariffs made for a powerful campaign slogan and a rallying cry. But when it came to actually creating jobs and reviving American industry, the results just didn't live up to the hype. When economic news clashes with political promises, leaders face a choice: adapt to reality or try to silence the facts. Sometimes, instead of changing course, those in power choose to shoot the messenger, hoping the problem will disappear if the bearer of bad news is removed. In 2019, President Trump made headlines by firing Erica McIntyre, the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, after a jobs report failed to meet expectations. Rather than addressing the economic challenges, he targeted the person responsible for delivering the data. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, is designed to be nonpartisan and objective. Its mission is to provide accurate, unbiased information about the economy, regardless of who is in office or what the numbers say. Firing its chief for reporting bad news is like blaming the scoreboard for your team's loss. The scoreboard doesn't play the game, it just tells you the score. President Trump claimed, without providing evidence, that the jobs numbers were manipulated to make him look bad. He suggested a conspiracy, even though no proof was ever offered. In reality, data revisions and updates are a normal part of economic reporting. Numbers are refined as more information comes in. There's no grand plot behind it. This wasn't the first time Trump had attacked facts that didn't fit his narrative. But firing a top data official marked a dramatic escalation, sending shockwaves through the government and the public. The message was clear: contradict the president and you risk your job. This kind of pressure can make even the most dedicated public servants think twice before speaking the truth. When those responsible for reporting the facts become afraid to do so, the entire system suffers. The public, businesses, and policymakers all rely on honest data to make informed decisions. Undermining independent data doesn't just damage one agency, it erodes trust in government as a whole, making it harder for democracy to function. If we can't trust the scorekeeper, the whole game falls apart. Unreliable data leads to confusion, bad decisions, and ultimately, chaos. The integrity of our economic data is vital for democracy. It ensures that citizens, investors, and leaders can hold each other accountable. When facts get fired, so does public trust. And without trust, the foundation of our democracy begins to crack. While the US was busy with its own political drama and internal debates, Canada quietly observed from the sidelines, ready to make its move. Instead of reacting impulsively, Canadian leaders took a step back, analyzed the situation, and decided to play it smart. When President Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, it was a major blow to Canada's economy. But rather than panic, Canada responded with a calculated counterattack, imposing their own set of tariffs, but with a twist. They didn't just pick any products. Canadian officials carefully selected goods from key U.S. political districts: bourbon from Kentucky, cheese from Wisconsin, orange juice from Florida, products that mattered to politicians with influence in Washington. By targeting these specific items, Canada hit Trump's allies right where it hurt most: their home states and their political support base. Canada's move wasn't just about revenge. It was a masterstroke of strategy, designed to create pressure on U.S. politicians from their own voters and business leaders. Throughout the ordeal, Prime Minister Trudeau remained calm and composed, presenting Canada as a defender of fair trade and international rules. This approach won Canada respect on the world stage, and the strategy paid off. American companies in the targeted sectors began to feel the pain almost immediately. Iconic brands like Harley-Davidson, facing higher costs, even decided to move some of their production overseas to avoid the tariffs. The tariffs ended up backfiring, hurting the very American workers and industries they were supposed to protect, leading to layoffs and uncertainty in several communities. In the end, Canada's smart, targeted response forced the U.S. to come back to the negotiating table. After months of pressure, the tariffs were finally lifted and trade relations began to normalize. This episode became a powerful lesson in how a smaller country can stand up to a superpower, not with brute force, but with brains, strategy, and a deep understanding of political pressure points. Canada didn't just retaliate, they outmaneuvered their much larger neighbor, showing the world that clever diplomacy can win the day. So never underestimate a polite neighbor with a plan and a bottle of maple syrup in hand. While politicians blamed other countries for lost manufacturing jobs, the real culprit was automation. Modern factories use robots and advanced systems, replacing jobs with machines that work faster and cheaper. Manufacturing output is at record highs, but with far fewer workers. Even big investments in U.S. factories create few jobs. They're automated, not labor-intensive. Tariffs can't bring back the old days of massive assembly lines. The real challenge isn't stopping automation, but adapting to it. Blaming other countries is easy. Facing technological change is hard. The solution? Retrain workers and invest in future industries. You can't stop a flood by yelling at the rain. Tariffs are taxes on imports, but companies pass those costs to you. When tariffs hit steel, aluminum, washing machines, and more, prices rose for everyone. Even US-made products got pricier, since domestic companies could raise prices too. The average family paid more for appliances, cars, and home renovations. Tariffs on raw materials raised costs for countless industries, making US companies less competitive. Some absorbed the costs, others laid off workers. The policy meant to protect jobs often destroyed them instead. The US economy isn't an island. Tariffs ripple through global supply chains. For most people, tariffs just mean higher prices and paychecks that don't go as far. It's a hidden tax that hits everyone. Trust is the foundation of a modern society, and that includes trust in government data. When leaders politicize statistics or fire officials for bad news, it erodes that trust. Financial markets rely on accurate data. If they suspect manipulation, uncertainty and volatility follow. Policymakers need real numbers to make good decisions. If the data's cooked, they're flying blind. Undermining statistical agencies isn't just politics, it's economic sabotage. When facts become just another political narrative, democracy suffers. Rebuilding trust in official data is slow and difficult. Once people believe the scorekeeper is cheating, the game loses meaning. Truth matters, especially in economics. Tariffs aren't just headlines, they hit real people. Small manufacturers saw steel costs jump 25%, forcing layoffs or price hikes. Farmers, supposedly protected, became targets of retaliatory tariffs. Their biggest markets vanished overnight. Billions in exports were lost and bankruptcies soared. The government had to bail out farmers with taxpayer money. Consumers paid more for everything from washing machines to cars. Tariffs acted as a regressive tax, hitting low and middle-income families hardest. The trade war created winners and losers, often hurting those it claimed to help. It pitted industries against each other, helping a few at the expense of many. Economic policies have real human costs. Starting a trade war is easy, controlling the damage is not. These stories show the true price of tariffs. When policies fail, politicians often change the subject. President Trump mastered this, shifting focus from tariffs and job losses to media attacks and culture wars. When pressed on economic fallout, he dodged questions and created new controversies. Accusing the BLS chief of conspiracy turned a story about bad numbers into one about loyalty. This strategy rallies supporters and avoids accountability, but damages public debate. Constant distraction prevents real scrutiny of flawed policies. It's effective in the short term, but leaves lasting harm. Without accountability, the consequences linger. The US and Canada now stand at a crossroads. For the US, tariffs and politicized data have strained alliances and shaken global confidence. Continuing down this path risks isolation and economic stagnation. The future depends on whether America can rebuild trust and embrace cooperation. Canada, meanwhile, learned the power of resilience and smart diplomacy. By diversifying trade and standing firm, Canada emerged stronger and more independent. The US-Canada relationship will need time and effort to repair. Future American leaders must prove they can be reliable partners. Canada will approach the relationship with new caution, aware of shifting US politics. The big question: will the US learn from this or double down on going it alone? The world is watching, and Canada is ready to forge its own path if needed. The next chapter depends on the choices made now.